everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Spiritual Fitness Program with your host Vaisheshika Prabhu, a veteran Bhakti yogi, former monk, and author, and myself JM. Spiritual Fitness is a program designed to explore the timeless text of Bhakti Yoga and practices that lead to spiritual perfection. Welcome to the show, Vaisheshika Prabhu.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be back. And good to see all of you uh, back again, too. Good to be together.
Yeah, we have close to 100 people online right now in the program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for telling me. Well, today, before I start, I offer my respects to my spiritual teacher who imparted to me the wisdom of the texts that teach about bhakti yoga, and to all of you, and wishing you the best on your spiritual practices. Today, since you mentioned, JM, in your preamble, something about timeless spiritual texts, I'm going to read something because I'm writing a book right now, I'm taking this lockdown time, hopefully for good use. And just these are excerpts. They're not something that I wrote in the book, but they're excerpts that I'm taking out of another book on the Yoga Sutras. And I thought it would lay the foundation for today's talk about encouragement. So a couple of short paragraphs here that describe the ways in which we take on various impressions from the world. This is written by a Professor Bryant, and it's called the Yoga Sutras, which is a commentary on a very ancient Sanskrit text that describes the eightfold processes of yoga, otherwise known as Ashtanga Yoga. Ashta means eight, and Anga means limbs or parts. So here you go. Our minds categorize sensory input from the chaotic field of raw sensations. This sensory input leaves its copy on the mind before fading away, like a sound is imprinted on a tape recorder or an image on film. The mind is thus a storehouse of these imprints, deposited and accumulated in the mind over countless lifetimes. These impressions are not just passive imprints, but vibrant, latent impulses that can activate under conducive circumstances and exert influence on a person's thoughts and behaviors. And the second, which is related, it's in a similar section of the book, samskaras. And samskaras, as I've described in previous meetings, are these impressions. It's a word for the impressions that are left upon the screen of the mind. Samskaras also account for such things as personality traits, habits, compulsive and addictive behaviors, etc. For example, a particular type of experience, say smoking a cigarette, is imprinted on the chitta, the mind, as a samskar, an impression, which then activates as a desirable memory or impulse, provoking a repetition of this activity, which is likewise recorded, and so on until a cluster or a grove of samskars, or an identical or similar sort is produced in the mind, gaining strength with each repetition. The stronger or more dominant such a cluster of samskars becomes, the more it activates and imposes itself upon the consciousness of the individual, demanding indulgence and perpetrating a vicious cycle that can be very hard to break. The reverse, of course, also holds true with benevolent, what are called aklishta vrittis, or these are positive impressions that we leave on our mind. These one can become addicted, so to speak, to benevolent yogic activities and lifestyle by constant repetition. Kleshas, vrittis, samskars, and karma are thus all interconnected links in the chain of samskars. So it's something we've talked about before, but I thought in excellent writing of Professor Bryant describing these phenomena and the ways in which impressions are left in our mind. And these compel us, and they develop personality traits and so forth. So there's a terminology in the practice of yoga which is called Hridaya Daurbalyam. So in Sanskrit, Hrid means the heart, and it is the center of emotion. In fact, poetically, it's described that the heart is the driver of the chariot of the body. If you've ever had this experience that you thought that maybe I should or shouldn't do something, that you did it because your heart made you do it. And you ask, was your heart in it or wasn't your heart in it? We have this natural tendency to identify that center of our body, the heart center, as a place where we feel emotion and that drives us in a certain way. So the phrase Hridaya Daurbalyam, Balyam means strength, Bala means strength, and Dur means bad. So it means weakness, actually, when you put the two together. So Hridaya Daurbalyam means a weakness of heart, which I put in this little acronym WOH, otherwise woe, or woe is me. Not spelled the same way, but the sound is the same, woe, WOHO, weakness of heart. And this is one of the stumbling blocks for those who want to be happy in life and who also want to make progress on the path of bhakti yoga, spiritual practice. So this weakness of heart leads to one of the prime symptoms of this is discouragement. And this is an all-pervading symptom. We find it everywhere because it's sort of natural in this world, in the default mode, to become discouraged because the environment tends to be enervating. It means takes away our energy. And unless we're doing something to fortify ourselves and to counteract discouragement, there's a way that our heart can become weak. And we can succumb to discouragement thinking in ways that are not very productive and which make us unhappy. So one of the points that I wanted to make today, and hopefully you will, is that it's important to encourage others. Many, many years ago, I read a book which was called The 1 Minute Manager. And the author talks in that book about how to manage groups of people. And he said that it's far more productive to catch people doing something right and then appreciate them for it. And in this way, encourage them in that behavior, the good behavior that they're doing. And he points out that when you do that, it creates an environment where people feel free to innovate, to create, and to be themselves. So many good qualities come out of people when you take time to encourage them and appreciate them. So oftentimes I think of this as a full-time occupation. And what if that was your job? And that all you had to do is encourage everybody you met and to any living thing. And whether it's a plant or an animal or, you could, with plants, I'm growing a lot of plants right now because I'm constantly next to my garden. And, just going and visiting them, I grew them from seed this time. I didn't buy any seedlings as I wanted to go through the whole process. So I got the best seeds I could find in the country and I started growing them. And when they started coming up, I was so excited. And I play them music and I go out to visit them many times a day and just say a good word. There's an old adage that says, the best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow. Because if the gardener's leaning over the plant, it's definitely going to come up right. And so it's the same with animals. If you encourage animals, they'll feel it, and they'll appreciate it, and they'll flourish. And what to speak of the human being? Human beings are in an existential bind because we have so much to contemplate. We have ideas about what might happen, what we've done in the past, and it's so easy to become overwhelmed as a human, as we're porous. We take in so many things from the environment. And therefore, I think it's a good principle. You tell me if you agree with me or not, that you could take it for granted that people need encouragement. And it doesn't matter who they are. They could be leaders. They could be the most stalwart person in the world who's appears to be impenetrable by any kind of discouragement. But I think it's advantageous, and not only that, it is accurate to assume that everybody needs encouragement. So what if that were true, and you decided that you would take it up as an occupation, that you would encourage everybody wherever you went? And I'm not talking about any kind of just boosterism that is trying to boost people up artificially, but there are ways to actually find something that is foundationally good about somebody's life and point it out and encourage them. So, what do you think would happen if you took one day and all you did was look to see how you could encourage other people? What do you think would be the result of that? You can write it in the text, in the chat box if you like.
Yeah, I'll wait for others to chime in. But one thing which I find is when of course, when I encourage others whenever they have done something good to me, or even I appreciate what they are doing, somehow I feel happy internally, because I don't know if, I mean, not consciously, but unconsciously I feel happy. Maybe it's because sharing happiness, then you get a return back maybe someday. That's not the reason I do, but I generally tend to feel happy.
Oh yeah, I'll give a reverse example. It's like in the penal code, if somebody's caught with drugs, they can be in a little bit of trouble. But if they're caught with a whole storehouse of it, they call it intent to distribute, and then they really get a severe sentence. So if you have some enthusiasm, that's one thing. But if you have an intent to distribute it, then on the positive side, as I said, as a counter example, on the positive side, that you're considered even more highly because of that. You're considered to be a great person because that's your intent, to encourage other people. Yeah, and it does rub off. When we encourage other people, then we have to think about it ourselves. Why aren't I encouraged? Or shouldn't I be similarly encouraged? Yeah, that's a good point. What do you think would happen if you did this for, let's say, 12 hours? You just made it an occupation to go around and encourage people. I just want to hear a scenario if you can think of one.
We do have, I don't know if somebody has a point. I'll wait for the other person to make a point. No? So there is a question on Facebook, which is how to avoid being seen as condescending while encouraging others.
Well, if we're compassionate and we're also appreciating our own situation at the same time, then it doesn't necessarily come off as being condescending. This is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashati arjuna sukham va yadiva dukam sa yogi paramo mataha. This verse means that the best yogi is the one who has compassion for all others. And this is called Atma upamyena, which means that you see your own experience in others. You empathize with them very deeply. And when there's genuine empathy, then we tend to not come off as condescending. And let's see.
Yeah,
This is yes. Go ahead.
we have a question on chat, or a response to the question you asked on chat by Malik Zadeh, I think. I feel that my cup would be empty for me if I spent 12 hours just encouraging others.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting point. So one of the other points that I'm going to bring out now is that we should encourage ourselves because oftentimes I'm waiting for attention. I may do something and think like, okay, where is it? You know, like sometimes you see athletes that go like, come on, everybody, cheer. You know, I just did something great. Didn't you notice? And this is a symptom of the ego and needs to be constantly fed. And there's never enough. You know, when people praise even sometimes very accomplished people, they still feel like, well, that wasn't good enough. So if I'm waiting for some attention and I'm waiting for compliments that I feel I deserve, then I'll feel disgruntled because it won't be enough, and it may not be forthcoming also because others are also waiting for the same thing, for something to come in. So it is helpful to encourage yourself, to take time to appreciate what you already have and encourage yourself first. And I have a list of things that one can do to do that, to be self-encouraged. And this is also, you know, self-motivating, self-encouraging is an important activity. There were a couple more, right? You want to read them?
There are two more. One from Sadhana. Mataji.
I can.
Yeah, you can go ahead,
I can
Mataji.
speak. Yeah, I was saying that I think encouragement is a very uplifting feeling, and allows that person that you give the encouragement to feel strengthened. It's often not about the actual, you know, the specifics of it. It's just a very feel-good activity, and that's a reward because once that person feels good, you can feel good too. You know, so what goes around comes to mind.
Okay, thank you very much, Sadhana. I appreciate that. What goes around comes around. This is also parallel with JM's theory that if you encourage others, you'll feel encouraged. And Lori says, I'd feel optimistic and joyful. Yes, oftentimes when I do live seminars, I ask people when I'm talking about encouragement to turn to somebody near them and encourage them. And at first, people look at me like, "Are you sure that we can do this? We should do this." And I say, "Go ahead. What's it going to hurt?" And so they turn and they start encouraging people. And pretty soon, like within 10 seconds, the whole room erupts, and it really starts to overflow with energy. And then I'll say to people, "Stop it! Stop encouraging other people." And then I ask the audience, doesn't that feel terrible when somebody encourages you? And people laugh. But it's something that I can overlook, that this word encouragement comes from French, actually. The root word is cor, which means the heart. And so it's easy enough for people to carry around discouragement in their heart. And when they get a little encouragement, then that they feel nourished. Even one word of appreciation can go a long way. It'll stick in somebody's head and give them the courage to go on. Anything else, JM?
No, so far those are the things.
Okay, so in the Sanskrit mantras, which we've been talking so much about, there is a mantra called the Gayatri Mantra. And in the Gayatri Mantra, there's an important word called prachodayat. And prachodayat comes from, I looked it up this morning in my Sanskrit dictionary, from the root word chud, which means to impel, incite, animate. And the prefix pra is an intensifier. It means to a high degree. So prachud, which then gets changed into prachodayat, means to set in motion, to drive on, to encourage. So this is one of the goals of the mantras, is to impress upon our mind and our heart this sense of these positive samskars, the impressions that give us encouragement and uplift us, remember who we are. So when we chant mantra, it also brings the heart out of this feeling of woe or weakness of heart, overcomes the discouragement. And it's actually the main project of spiritual practice, is to overcome discouragement, and to help others do that too. So prachodayat is an important concept in the Vedic teachings. So if we're here are a few of the encouraging statements that I've received recently that helps me to overcome any kind of weakness of heart as far as moving forward in life in general. Should I say them?
Please.
Okay. Is there a way to do thumbs up on here? Well, you could put it in the chat box too.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so a friend of mine is regarding writing, because writing, as one famous author once said, writing is very simple. You simply sit before the blank page and bleed. It's very self-confronting when you write, because there's a way in which the critic on the shoulder may be constantly saying, oh, this is no good, nobody's going to read this, and so forth. And a friend of mine who's a prolific author, he now has, I think he just published his 25th book. And these are really good books. Chaitanya Charan. And I met him in India about 1.5 years ago, and we had a long conversation about writing. And he said to me something that I always remember and encourages me for all activities, not just writing, but he said, you can always edit a full page, but you can never edit a blank page. So he also said, write fat. Means go for it, just write, and then later on you can edit it. And it's true in life also. There's oftentimes in my mind, I become discouraged and I think, oh, really, I can't do this, I can't do that. Just do it and edit it later. But if there's nothing to edit, then you have every right to feel discouraged. So that relates to something my teacher once told me, and he wrote at several places, and that is that failure is the pillar to success. So remember that failure is constructive, and you take the lesson out of it. And there are extreme stories about this in the Vedic literatures. There was a king named Parikshit who had everything. And one day when he was in the forest, he went to the hermitage of a sage. And the sage was in deep meditation called samadhi. He was so deeply entranced that he didn't even look up when the king came in. And uncharacteristic, because it was a very saintly king, he became angry. And he felt like he was being disrespected. So when he walked outside the hermitage, he found a dead snake, and he brought it back in and he wrapped it around this neck of the sage, who didn't even notice because he was so deeply in meditation. And then the king went home, and somebody had had witnessed what had happened. And they told the sage's son, who was just a kid, but he uttered a curse. He said, this king should die in 7 days, and he'll be bitten by a snake bird. He conjured something. And so when this curse came to the king, he said, okay, I accept it. And he walked away from his kingdom, and he went and he sat on the bank of the Ganges and was looking for a teacher to guide him in the last 7 days. What should I do before I leave this world? And from that came a discussion. His teacher appeared out of thousands who had gathered there. You can imagine the emperor gives up the kingdom and sits down Like if our president gave up the White House and went and sat on the bank of the Potomac River, and everyone would be there. Like, what are you doing? So his teacher, Shukadev, came there, and they had this conversation, which was has been recorded in the Sanskrit verses of the book, the teachings called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And his attitude was that I accept this. This is a lesson meant to teach me something. A very extreme case, but this is the idea that whatever comes to me in life, I can take it in a constructive way and I can learn the lesson. And the other way to become encouraged when I'm stuck is to think small but get started. This is a Japanese principle of developing mini habits. Start with the smallest of activities to move in the right direction. In the medical practice called homeopathy, there's this idea that the smallest trace of a particular chemical or herb in a pill form, actually, because it's so subtle, then it has the systemic effect on the body and can help to heal in many different ways. And so small isn't necessarily bad. Oftentimes, if I think in broader terms that I have to accomplish this or that I feel overwhelmed by it. But if I start with the smallest activity, and one of the most recent authors who wrote about this principle, this Japanese principle, told about one of his subjects who he was working with. He was coaching people in this. And there was a woman who was overweight by a lot. And she was really having a hard time overcoming it and getting motivated. So he examined her lifestyle, and one of the things that she did, or the main thing that she did, was watch television, and the second main thing she did was to eat. So he told her that every time a commercial comes on, you stand up. That's what she did for the first 10 days. Just stand up out of your seat. And then when she came back and she said, I was able to do it. I stood up 10 days in a row when I was watching television, whenever a commercial came on. And then he said, okay, now when you stand up, you walk in place 3 times, and then you could sit down. And she did that successfully. And amazingly, in recounting the story, she was getting more and more encouraged every time, because the steps literally were so small that she could accomplish them. Well, fast forward, in using this method of a little bit at a time, tiny little steps, she was able to then start walking around the block. And then after about a year, her dietary habits changed in a similar way, and her exercise increased more and more until she got to a very healthy weight. So he brings up several accounts of people who have used this method. Don't become overwhelmed by the huge picture, but think of the small things and try to get small wins throughout the day. You can do that at a moment's notice. If you're feeling overwhelmed or discouraged by something, just try to get one little win and then move forward. And another very helpful way to self-encourage is to remove distractions, because there's nothing so encouraging as making progress. And one of the main ways that we don't make progress is by becoming distracted and being pulled in many different directions. This is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Vyavasayatmika buddhir eke hakurunandana bahushaka hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. And that means that when a practitioner is moving forward, he or she has a fixity of mind. And vyavasayatmika buddhi. Buddhi means the intelligence, and the intelligence is fixed in one direction. But bahushaka means many branched. Hi anantas, when it becomes unlimitedly branched, there's a way that one becomes discouraged because it's going in so many different directions. And there's an old saying that if you try to run after and catch two rabbits, you won't catch either of them. Those will go in many different directions. So reducing distraction, and someone suggested to me a while back, try sometimes having only one item on your to-do list and see what happens. Clear all other things away and just say, there's only one item on my to-do list today. This is it. Don't put two, don't put three, just put one. And then see how the mind flourishes and becomes more encouraged when you only have one thing to focus on at a time. And that can be very encouraging. And the third thing is by association. We really are crystal-like in the sense that whatever you put near a crystal, it will reflect that particular item. For instance, if you have a crystal and you put a red rose next to it, the crystal will appear to be red. So we are like that. Our consciousness is crystal and pure, but when we associate in various ways, it takes on various colors. So when we find encouraging association, uplifting, high-minded association, then we can very easily develop those qualities ourself. And this is what is sometimes referred to as a knowledge universe. Who is in your knowledge universe? Or who is it that you're regularly or very deliberately meeting with and discussing things with? That's the question. And from that, you'll know what kind of qualities you're going to take on as well. So these are some of the very practical ways in which one can develop this encouragement within oneself, be self-encouraging. And now let's just see if you have any reflections. Reflection just means anything that you heard so far that I mentioned that you can repeat back. Okay. If you feel inspired, there you go. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Vash. This is Charles. Hey. So I just had a question. So I'm wondering about, and you kind of touched on this earlier about, if, giving encouragement, but, doing so in a non-superficial way. So I'm just wondering, do you think, let's say with a friend, or if you tried it out with a partner where the two of you kind of just took out, carved out some time to intentionally do this encouragement exercise, do you think that would be superficial, or do you think it could be
I don't
effective?
think it's superficial, Charles. In fact, I do it all the time with my wife. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll say, hey, listen, do you have time to encourage me? And she says, sure, I'll make time. Then we'll sit down and say, well, because sometimes we get self-contained in my own mind, my little universe of my mind. I think, I'm no good, and what's the use anyway? Nobody really cares, And you need somebody who's objective, and and just starts telling you, like, well, hey, you've done this, you've done that, and this is going on for you, and just having another person put some more energy into you. I mean, why do athletes have coaches? The top athletes all have coaches. Remember Andre Agassi, when he was at the top of his game, he had another tennis player, Brad Gilbert, who was a professional and really good in his own right. But, Andre Agassi, he needed a coach. Everybody does. It's no man is an island. So we have to have this, those nowadays, I have friends, several who work full-time as coaches in the corporate field, and, high positioned managers, CEOs, and so forth. They need encouragement. They need somebody they can talk to and give them some objectivity. Have you ever seen the movie, Charles, It's a Wonderful Life?
No, I haven't.
Well, I recommend it. I don't recommend a lot of movies, but that's one of them that gives this perspective. It's an old
Okay.
black and white movie with Jimmy Stewart. And, basically he's like totally discouraged about his life. And then this angel appears and, starts showing him what his life, what the world would look like if he hadn't been in it. Because he was saying, oh, what's the use? I don't do it good for anybody. And then, by the time he comes back from this journey with this angel, seeing what his life would have been like, everything seems good. He was living in this old broken down house, and there had been a problem at the bank that he was overseeing, and they lost money and he had to go to jail. And when he runs back in the house after having this vision, the police are waiting for him. The whole thing is like, it's so great, I'm going to jail. I love, and the house that he was so upset about before, he was like, just embracing it practically. So it just shows, it's an exercise that, in perspective. So to answer your question in a more simple way, it's not necessarily artificial. It's something that is necessary in order to operate on a high level.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And another thing, I think it's so common that we have this self-deprecating attitude or mentality, but we're kind of always seeking the approval or the attention or the external encouragement from others. But I think we do so well for ourselves if we could just learn to provide that on our own, because that's what we're always seeking, but
yes,
it's if we could also do that on our own, the self-encouragement that you talked about, I think that's so powerful. And maybe it's something we just need to practice, just be more intentional about practicing it.
Absolutely, Charles. And just you brought some light to the fact that it's a default mode. So the first passage I read about samskars, the impressions left in our minds, have to do with the way that we are influenced, by these impressions. And there's a way that when we actually see our higher self, that I'm not the body. This body, is a physical entity. I'm non-physical, I'm non-neural, I'm non-chemical. What I am, the actual seer that resides in the body, through which the body becomes a vehicle and moves around and is animated, is categorically different from matter. However, when I identify myself as the body, then I'm always feeling discouraged because the body's constantly falling apart and not doing what I want it to do and not looking the way I want it to look. But if I'm not the body, then that's a whole different thing. So through the process of practicing yoga, mantra meditation, and so forth, one will have this experience that I'm not a physical entity. I'm not related to this body. I'm only residing within it temporarily. And when one has that experience for oneself, it's so edifying that one feels naturally encouraged. This is called the Brahma Bhuta platform. Bhagavad Gita says, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nashochati Nakangshati Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. So what this means is, Brahma Bhuta means when you come to the spiritual platform where you see yourself as different from the material body and mind, then there's three symptoms. The first symptom is called Prasannatma. So Prasannatma means joyfulness. You're happy for no reason because there's a huge burden lifted. You just see this happens sometimes to people who have out-of-body experiences. Their body is for one reason or another impaired, and they flatline. They go outside their body. They kind of see hey, I'm not the body, and then they enter back within it. Their perspective completely changes. There's a way that that happens sort of incidentally, and there's a way that it happens deliberately through spiritual practice. And the second symptom is nashochati nakangshati. There's no a lamentation in that mode of spiritual awareness. And there's no hankering either. Like, I don't need anything. I'm satisfied the way I am right now. And the third thing is sarva bhuteshu. One sees samak sarveshu bhuteshu means one has empathy for all other living beings. No envy is there. That it's not, the competition mode is not there, because sees everything's happening by everything's happening perfectly in perfect arrangement. So good points you made, Charles. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's take one. Yes, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, this is, I'm just filling in for JM. He had to be called for something urgent. Hare Krishna. There are two questions from Facebook. One is from Thiho Mir. And the question is how to apply this strategy for COVID-19 lockdown.
Well, this is the perfect time for this, because right now we get to re-examine everything and find out what's going on. And I'm assuming now that I'm thinking about the question, how do we apply the principle of encouraging people? Well, I've been doing it by calling people up on the phone. And if you call up for no reason, like you don't need to borrow their lawnmower, or, hey, can you, I need something from you. If you call people and just to say, how are you? And just offer them some encouragement, it will resonate. And so that's one way that you can do it. And everybody's home right now, I'm finding. It's kind of amazing. It's easy to get in touch. And there's another one.
Thank you. There's another one by Dana Kelly. And she's saying that if I'm not satisfied with myself, it is hard to be satisfied with others. Sincere encouragement suggests that I can come from a honest place. I think self-realization is the essence of authentic encouragement.
Yep. And Charles brought that out really nicely just a minute ago. So you're right on, Donna Kaylee. Absolutely. Yeah, when it's real, when you're actually seeing it, then, but even in cases where other people can't see themselves very well, when you offer that encouragement, it brings a higher energy into the conversation. It is a kind of objectivity that really can be powerful.
There is one more just came up by Deva Madhava, and he's paying respects to you. He says Narada Muni talked about his own coming to the consciousness to encourage Vyasadeva. What are some guiding principles for sharing our own story achievements faithfully?
Well, that's one of the... Thanks, Deva Madhava. Good to hear from you. Hope everything's going well in Michigan. This is something that is brought up in another famous bhakti literature called the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. That the hero of the story says that the best way to teach lessons to other people is through your own life story, because it's something that you've realized yourself and you can pass it on to others. I mean, even commercial-wise, when people sell products, the testimonials are the most powerful. They say, I was like this, and then I did this, then my wrinkles fell off, and now look, I look young again. They show the before and the after. So telling one story that, empathizing, like, I know how you feel, that happened to me, and here's how I got out of it, can be really encouraging also. Well, thank you for stepping in there. Good to see you, Bobby. Okay. Do you have the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we show it? Because now we're going to enter into the practitioner's mode. Sadhana, or practice, is what a spiritual practice, or sadhana, towards the goal, the sadhya, seeing that we're not our body through the process of bhakti, which is ninefold, and it begins with hearing spiritual sound vibration and repeating it. And when we do that, then there's a natural way in which we're channeling higher energy from a different stratum, and it enters into our mental system. Remember I mentioned earlier about the aklishta, the samskars? Klishta comes from the word klesha, which means misery. So in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says all misery is within the mind. And these kleshas or miseries are there because of the bad impressions we've taken into our mind. And those can be reversed and overwritten by the aklishta. When in Sanskrit, when you put an a in front of a word, it usually reverses the meaning. So aklishta means the non-miserable samskars or impressions or vrittis. These are called benevolent aklishta vrittis or BAVs, the bhavs. And if you introduce those, it's a higher energy from a higher energy source, then it naturally brings the mind to a higher level. So today I talked about Hridaya Dorbalya, and that means, as you remember, does anybody remember what it means? Pop quiz. Hrid means the heart, and Dorbalya means weakness. So weakness of heart, which leads to discouragement, which is an enemy to all kinds of happiness and progress, can be overcome by a mantra also, by introducing a higher sound vibration that lifts us up to an awareness that I'm not a physical entity. I'm actually not connected to the dross of the material world. So we see in this picture a quite unusual scene that there's obviously a higher energy source entering within the mind of this meditator here, coming from a higher dimension. So if you'll move to the next mantra. This mantra, Nitai Gauranga, is the two avatars, Nitai and Gauranga, who are like, it's described in the ancient literatures, these two avatars are like the sun and the moon arising simultaneously on one horizon. And it's meant to enlighten the heart space and awaken us to actually our spiritual nature. This Nitai Gauranga, we can repeat together, and if you sit up a little straighter than you were a second ago, and then take a few breaths to center yourself and get ready for this otherworldly experience of invoking the mantra. If you like, you can close your eyes. And I'll go at an even pace, and if you want to follow me behind closed mics, you can. And I'm going to do it according to my breath, so that I'm doing the Nitai Gauranga mantra on my exhale. Nitai Gauranga, 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 Nitai Gauranga. Now, if you just sit and breathe and bring your awareness back to your breath and feel how the vibration has entered into your body. And now, Pavani, if you'll move to the next slide, I want to point out in this mantra, this is called the Maha-Mantra. It's been passed down over thousands of generations. And the word Rama actually brings spiritual strength. It means spiritual strength. The avatar of Rama carries a plow. He gives us, helps to overcome weakness of heart. And so you can take shelter in this this mantra and in the avatar Rama by saying the name Rama, and then this is one of the ways in which the practitioner overcomes weakness of heart, the discouragement that comes naturally from the level of the mind, and all the negative samskars can be overcome by this very powerful mantra, 2 syllables, Rama. And the rest of the mantra also is meant to call out for help, like Hare Krishna. Hare is the vocative form, which means like I'm open to help down here. And Krishna means the one who attracts our mind to a higher level of happiness and beauty, which is what the mind becomes satisfied with, the ultimate beauty. So let's try this mantra, and we'll try it in 2 ways. One is we can do it simultaneously, so that I'll say it, and you can say it at the same pace that I do. And after we do that, I'll stop, and then you can try doing it individually. But before we do that, I just want you to get acquainted with the word Rama. And so silently in your mind, keeping your eyes closed, bring the syllables Rama, Rama into your mind and say them over and over again in your mind, just for a minute. And then bring that powerful name into your heart region and just see how you feel. So you can just feel free to go ahead, and then I'll inform you when a minute's up. So the word is pronounced Rama, Rama. And now, just wonder if you had any, felt any difference between saying the mantra out loud as opposed to saying it in your mind. Did you find it easier, harder to control the mind, saying it silently, inwardly? Or are you still absorbed? Any thoughts? Is everyone able to unmute if they need to, Pavani?
Yes, they.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually found it harder as the mind tends to wander on its own without any action. You know,
Yeah.
loud is an action.
Yeah. That's an interesting observation. Yes, that saying it silently, the mind becomes a little bit more like the current of a river carrying you away. Whereas when you're saying it out loud, then you feel a little more like you have something to put an anchor down and hold you. Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else experience the difference? Okay, so let's remember Rama, and you can say Rama anytime for spiritual strength. And now we'll try the whole mantra, the Maha-Mantra. And so I'll do it 10 times at a slow pace, and then we'll try it doing it individually at your own pace for a moment. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that was 10 mantras said with just a very deliberate breath. And now just take a minute to say it at your own pace. And say the mantra at whatever pace, fast or slow, that you like. And we'll come back in 60 seconds. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I'm muting myself so that I don't interfere with your rhythm. Thank you very much. I hope that went well. And in our 21-day spiritual fitness challenge, there's a division of body, mind, and spirit, practices that you can put into your daily life. And you'll notice that the effects will be systemic. And the mantra chanting is a part of that. And if you do mantra and you count how many mantras you're doing every day, either by time or how many mantras you repeat, there's a counting device. It's got a little clicker they use to count passengers getting on buses and things like that. Or there's beads that you can use to keep track. But if you track the number of mantras that you do every day, you'll find that that helps to build this Rama, or spiritual strength. And now, since we've come to the end of the hour, let's just see if anybody would say hello. And any parting comments?
Hi, Vaish.
Hey, Josh. Good to see you.
Like always, good to see you. And thank you so much. And when you were talking about encouraging, I was reminded there's an old saying that's usually used in a completely different context. And the old saying is, when you point your finger at somebody, there's 3 pointed at you. And it's usually about negative things.
Yeah.
I kept thinking about, it seems true for positive things as well.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely rubs off. It's a higher kind of energy because you can always find fault. My teacher used to say that flies go for the sores, but the bees look for the honey. And it's a higher mode to be able to look and find what's good about a situation. It tends to augment it too. Where tension goes, energy flows. Thank you very much, Josh. Good to see you.
Likewise, thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
Thinking of, oddly enough, I got this on ESPN. We were talking about coaches and sports.
Yes.
One day I was watching ESPN they had a sports psychologist on, and their saying was, positive thinking doesn't work all the time, but negative thinking does.
Bravo. Well done. Thank you for that. That's a gem for the day. Yeah, very good. Good to remember. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great week. Everyone else too.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good to see you. I love your background.
Oh, thanks.
That's really amazing.
The same one I had up on Mother's Day.
Oh, that's good. Can anybody else check in and just say hi? And any
Hi, I
thought you
wanted
have?
to say thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. You're always here, and I deeply appreciate it. Good to have you.
And something that kind of spoke to me today was just when you reach out for, maybe a partner for encouragement. I think sometimes I have a tendency to vent, and what I'm really looking for is encouragement. And so I think it makes sense to just say, this is what I need right now, instead of kind of having an underlying expectation of that, and maybe not receiving it, and there being ambiguity in what I'm looking for.
Really nice point. Thanks for bringing that up again. That it's okay to ask for it from somebody. I mean, if a professional athlete can pay somebody to encourage them, and we can ask our friends or our loved ones, because just take a little time. Tell me what I'm doing right, and give me some flat out encouragement, and see how it goes, because it's really powerful. Yeah, thank you. Okay, a couple more. Anybody else? Just say hey or anything you're taking away. It looks like, Cassandra, you get the last word today. And unless there's anything that you want to report on Facebook, any last comments?
No, there are none here. I'm personally very impressed by today's class because it was very timely. we had so much going on in our home front. And then when this message came about uplifting everyone around you, encouraging everyone around you, it just created a lot of positivity in my home. JM and I had some struggles last 2 days, and we were not in talking terms. And as soon as this message came, this was like, wow, okay, let's encourage each other. So it just became like very positive.
Yeah.
So I was like very thankful for this message. And when you said about, calling your friends, I was actually personally doing this in these times. I had this WhatsApp group, and I have a lot of people in that group, and I would just call people who I generally am not very friendly with or don't know them. And when they got a call from me, they were so happy, and we just had a little chat, and it just changed the environment. And the feedback I got was it just changed my day. So they were very thankful, and I was reflecting on that when your class was going on. So
Nice.
thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, thank you very much for practical realization. And just remember, we're humans. Humans are kind of in the middle, so we tend to get crushed a lot. So remember, we need encouragement. Encourage yourself. Encourage the heck out of others. Heck gets in people and is not very nice. I'm going to leave you with one quote that I pulled out this morning. Please know that often what feels like the end of the world is simply a challenging pathway to a far better place. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. It was really heartening to be with all of you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.